the show begin. Next generation for the win. We're going all in. All together now, let's begin. Let the show begin.
So the last session was about numbers, so I'm going to start with numbers again, okay? And we're going to set the scene first, okay? So the total market, the chart that we're going to show, around 28% online, tours and activities, if I can have the chart. So big opportunity ahead. It's only 28% right now in 2024. So can you all give me a figure? What will be the online percentage in 10 years' time? Susan?
40%.
40%.
38%.
38%.
Is the price is right?
45. Jacinta?
60.
Yes, okay. We got the most bullish, most optimistic person there. All right. So I'm going to switch to an audience poll now, and then we're going to engage the panelists as well. So what will be the hottest trend in tours and activities in the next 3 years? For the audience to pick one. Panelists, have I left out anything, or do you want to pick one trend from that? Susan, you go first.
I would just say responsible travel is going to be a big trend, so that's something that will be
Responsible travel. Okay, Austin?
I'm particularly interested in events travel. I mean, we've seen so much of it with big concert tours and sporting events in the last year.
All right, John?
I'm going to pick outdoor adventure. I think that kind of experience in the outdoors and getting into the wilderness is a big thing.
All right. Jacinta?
Yeah, I agree with John. I think that's become a much bigger trend after COVID as well. And I think the other thing that we see a lot is wellness, and I'm quite bullish on that in the next few years too.
All right, so we're seeing the audience really going for events-themed and slow travel. Do we have a lot of older people in the audience? Or maybe it's the younger people who need to sleep. Slow travel. I think that's a big trend for me. All right, so let's go to the next polling, which is in flights and hotels. 30 years after, a handful of giants dominate, right? So in tours and activities, a few have emerged, Viator, Get Your Guide, Klook. So the same consolidation will happen in the next 10 years. A, yes, for sure, because it's a game of scale. Or B, I'm not so sure disruption could still happen in the second vote, in the second wave. Audience, please vote. What do you think, Susan?
I'll say B.
B, all right.
B. Sorry, rapid fire, B.
I'll say B. There's some important differences with this industry than airlines and hotels.
All right.
Yep, agree. B as well.
You all agree?
Yes.
All right. What's the one thing that could happen where that won't come true? Susan?
What will happen if it doesn't come true?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that this is, if you look at activities, right, there's over 100 different categories in this space. So there's a lot of opportunity for big players, small players. And I think it's really important that we have space for everybody in order to make sure all travelers are able to book what they want, how they want it. So I think there's no space, personally, that it's not going to be opportunities for all types of players.
Right. So because I think you were the one to say that there are special characteristics about this market that's different from flights and hotels.
Yeah, exactly. So a flight, a seat on an airline is a seat on an airline. There's different types of airlines, but the kind of nature of the inventory is quite consistent. Whereas in attractions, the difference between an Empire State inventory management system and a walking tour or a surfboard rental,
right?
It's much harder to standardize.
Okay, so you can see that the audience actually agrees with you, but not a clear majority. I mean, 68% that you agree with them. Okay, so let's look at the state of market, and I guess the interesting thing is because this sector is different, right? And then we see now the big global OTAs coming into the space, Jacinta. Austin, you've been working on the connected trip, right? Connecting trips to flights and hotels. And in the Booking Holdings second quarter results, it said that connected transactions increased by 45%.
That's right.
So you're seeing the customer actually buying the connected trip on your platform.
They are. And by the way, the connected trip for us is more than just multiple verticals. Flights and hotels is an easy one to wrap our minds around. But we've got other verticals at Booking as well. We're most known for what we started with hotel, but we've also got car rentals and taxis, attractions activities, and insurance, all of which add value to not only our customers, but also to our supply partners as well. So you mentioned the growth in that space. We definitely are filling a customer want and customer need, but a connected trip is also driving incremental customers, not only to Booking.com, but our partners as well. So take flights, for example. Flights is the vertical outside of accommodations, which is most likely to be connected to other verticals. We see that about 20% of customers that book a flight on Booking.com are actually net new customers to us.
Right.
And most of those flights customers actually then go on to book other verticals as well, accommodations, attractions, etc. So we are filling a customer need, promoting awareness that we are able to connect different parts of
But the most popular combination is still flight and hotel, right? Right now, it's flight and hotel.
That is, but where the real interesting opportunity is, I think we heard some of it this morning, is the experiences in stay. That's where attractions, activities, tours really make a difference. And being able to use technology like AI to really make contextual, very relevant recommendations for things to do in stay is the big opportunity.
Okay, and clearly that's something that Expedia sees. You've been dabbling actually at the fringe of tours and activities for a while, right? You've been talking about it, and everybody says, "Oh, this is really serious or not?" You know. So is it all in this time?
Yeah, I mean, we've always been serious about activities. We've been doing it for over 20 years. We have over 200,000 different products on our site. What I would say is, when you look at the great opportunity, when you're looking at an OTA and across the connected trip, we can see when a customer, where they're staying, what hotel they're going to, how long they're staying at that hotel. So it's a great opportunity for us to look and say, and recommend the right product at the right time to those travelers. And we've seen from 2022 to 23 a 30% increase in attach. So it is something we're very serious about. I would say in the simplest form, if you have a customer that's staying at Universal or Disney, we can see where they're staying, and then we can start testing what that recommended activity would be and how long that ticket type should look like. So that's a lot of testing and learning and new opportunities, but we'll stay serious in this space.
And Jon, you are in a very specific niche, which is city passes, and you currently have about 25 passes, right? So how big can this grow by, say, 2034? And do you see Go City becoming Go Food, Go Adventure, Go,
Yeah, so we're coming at it from a slightly different point. We drive customers into a destination and help them uncover all about the destination with all the different experiences available in the destination. I think, we could be in, with our current model, 80 markets. But actually, one of our big challenges is word of mouth and awareness and growing share within our market. So that's probably in the short term a bigger growth for us.
Okay.
Are we going to be Go Food? Probably not Go Food, but we're probably going to be Go City with a whole bunch of other things to sell when the customer's in market. So we know, as you were saying, we know where the customer is, we know when they're scanning into attractions. So the ability to recommend a restaurant or a sports event or a theatre ticket is quite high, and that's something we're starting to play around with through our app at the moment.
Okay. So Jacinta, you were on stage yesterday at the boot camp sharing your startup story, and you're kind of the dark horse in the race here, at least in Southeast Asia, right? And you're making quite an impact with next generation travelers in Asia. Firstly, how do you feel about the giants coming into this space?
I mean, they were in the space before us. We're trying to disrupt them. So I think it's fair that they're
How do you feel about her getting into your space?
It's a big industry, and I think there's room for all of us. And if you can provide some unique experiences, that's amazing.
All right. So tell us about the demographic and the kind of travelers that you're targeting. That you said you started Seek Sophie for your generation, for your kind of travelers. Tell us about those demographics.
Yeah, I mean, there are 3 points that I'll make there. And the first is in response to what everyone has said, which is what a lot of players are currently trying to do is to find in-destination things for people to do. So they're saying that, look, you're going to London or New York, these are the things that you can do after you book your flights and hotels. How we are seeing ourselves travel and our generation travel is completely different. We're flipping the script on that. You're actually choosing where to go based on the experience that you want to do. So, for example, if I I don't have plans to go to India, for example, but if I see this really interesting retreat in India or a really interesting hike in India, I'll think, okay, I'm going to build my entire trip around that. And I'm seeing that a lot more, that people are asking us, okay, I've got time next year, what should I do? And I'll say, do this really interesting thing, and then they'll plan it. They'll book their hotels, they'll book their flights after they book the experience. So that's one really interesting trend that's different that I'm seeing. But so going back to the start, and this is what I shared yesterday, the reason why we started Seek Sophie in the first place is because when we looked around the entire landscape of travel, we didn't see any brands that represented how we travel and how our friends traveled. So if you look across all consumer brands in any single category, food, clothing, shoes, for example, you have the mass consumer brands like Starbucks, but you also have the brands that care about more niche, more quality coffee like Arabica. And if you're a huge coffee fan, you love coffee, you wake up in the world and there's only Starbucks around, you'll think, oh, I want to start Arabica because that caters to my taste. And you see that in every single consumer category, right? In fashion, you have Shein and H&M on one side, but you also have the Patagonias and the high-end brands on the other side. So we thought, why isn't there a brand in travel that represents how we want to travel, that represents our values, that we want to do things that are unique, that are not just mass? So that's why we started Seek Sophie as an alternative to the mass market experiences.
Right.
And the type of experiences that we sell, that we see our travelers resonate very much with, are the things that you really cannot find anywhere else, like a hike into a 130 million year old rainforest that nobody knows, a firefly safari with a conservationist in Bali. You can go diving with a marine biologist. So we cannot sell SIM cards like a lot of the other platforms do, but we sell multi-day, complex experiences that are very differentiated very well.
Right, and that's something that perhaps the bigger players would not get into. The flipping, search by experiences, lead by experiences.
I think it's really interesting for the experience to be the anchor of the trip. I mentioned at the beginning, I'm very interested in experiences like big mass market experiences like a Taylor Swift concert or the World Cup being an anchor. That's a very interesting one as well. Whether that's a space that's natural for Booking.com to play in or not, I can honestly say that we're not thinking of that, but I'm very intrigued by it.
All right. So let's talk about value creation, right? Because we are all in it, because we love the industry, and we all want to create value, right? And so the two of you, your two companies, you're driven by scale, right? And your tech platforms are built for scalability. So with Trips, are you in it for revenue optimization, or are you in it to grow the market and add value? What kind of value do you want to add?
Yeah, so we're a tech company that looks to provide really great experiences for our travelers. And scale is important. We want to make sure that we can bring travelers to small partners, to big partners, and provide all different types of experiences. But one thing that's really important to us is also focusing on sustainability. So something that we're really excited about this year, I personally can say I am, we've been partnering with North Queensland on the Guardians of the Reef campaign. And so what that does is allow us to educate travelers, reward them for learning about the Great Barrier Reef, and then ultimately really provide great experiences. But what I like about supporting sustainability, it also just goes to show that travel really can be a force for good.
All right.
We also believe that travel is a force for good, and is revenue optimization and growth, are they important? Absolutely, but really the reason that we're building out the Connected Trip is because we see it as a way to add value not only to our travelers, but to our partners as well. I mentioned earlier, we absolutely are filling a customer demand out there to have different bits of their trip connected in one platform, and we are delivering value to our partners by bringing them incremental demand that they would not have otherwise seen. Where we see more value coming as the Connected Trip matures and we're able to connect customers to really unique experiences like the ones that you've described, right, is providing hyper-contextual, super relevant recommendations for what would make this trip even more amazing. That's value that we're bringing.
All right. And Jon, how do city passes add value?
So we talk about the Connected Trip in a slightly different way. We help our customers explore everything that there is to see in the destination. So if they're going to New York, we help them see a mix of the kind of the blockbuster sites, but also some off the beaten track stuff like a walking tour in Brooklyn, things like that. And we tend to find our customers do more attraction visits than they would if there wasn't a pass there. So the way we help the attractions ecosystem is driving incremental visitation to attractions as a whole.
Right, but then do you tend to drive people to the big attractions or the same attractions, or is there a deliberate approach to basically spreading it out and supporting the smaller businesses as well?
It's both. So take New York as the example. We have over 100 attractions contracted. Some of those are, most people who are first-time visitors to New York City want to see the Empire State Building and want to see the Statue of Liberty. But they also can explore all of the 5 boroughs. They can, as I say, do a walking tour in Brooklyn, and they can see much more of the off-the-beaten-track stuff by using our product than if you just went yourself and booked 1 or 2 things to do.
But are you seeing any sort of deliberate shift in customer behavior towards the more underexposed activities?
I'd say yes, but quite slow. So yes, it's definitely year after year, those kind of tours, those off-the-beaten-track stuff are getting bigger. But it's not like they've gone from 1% to 50%. There's a slow increase over time to those kind of sort of attractions in towns.
So I want to put some context around numbers, right? Jacinta, you have a team of 12 people. Mm-hmm. How many people in your team?
In activities, we have about 40 just on the
40?
supply side. But
Activities for us is about 80. 80.
Oh, 80, 40, 80?
150.
150. You got 12. You say you want to reach 100 million sales by 2028, right? How much sales do you have?
A lot. We'll say that.
A fair amount.
We got a fair amount as well.
Okay.
If we're all keeping our cards close to our chest.
Well, Jacinta is going to share. She says she wants to reach 100 million sales by 2028. So where are you now? And how do you intend to reach that 100 million? Where are you now?
So we're 8 figures now, and we've been growing on average. We've been doubling every year on average. So I think we are right on track to get that. I think we've built 2 really interesting things that put us in a good place for that. And one is the brand. I think we really resonate with the more adventurous, younger travelers. And the second is, obviously, we're very good at selling complex multi-day trips that no other players in at the moment, and that's actually a really big market. And what's really interesting about the tours and activities market, which very few people talk about, is that 22% of travelers actually account for over 50% of the spending in tours and activities. And these are the affluent segment. And it's the affluent segment that actually prioritizes tours and activities. They're the ones that are much more likely to book, but they also look for much more differentiated small group experiences. So if you think about the rest of the spend, which is the other 50%, that's going towards the more kind of mass market stuff. But the affluent travelers, which are only a very small group of travelers, they're spending on much more differentiated experiences that we are selling. Right. So we're quite confident about the market that we're in.
Okay, so your sweet spot, complex multi-day trips, which might be harder for the OTAs to really get into, right? Okay. Right, so let's do a rapid fire, either or, all right? Austin, historical sites, museums, or theme parks?
Historical sites.
Susan, tech immersive experiences or nature?
Tech immersive.
John, Singapore or Shanghai?
Singapore.
Okay. Jacinta, TikTok or Instagram?
Instagram.
Okay. Austin, must do in Singapore.
Hainan Jifan.
Hainan chicken rice, okay. I like that bak kwa and Hainan chicken rice. Seems to be the booking.com flavor right now. Okay. Susan, must do in Singapore.
Gardens by the Bay.
What?
Gardens by the Bay.
Okay, Gardens by the Bay.
Yep.
Does it have tech immersive experiences?
It does.
It does, okay, all right. Okay, John, food tours or cocktail classes?
Obviously both. Food.
All right. Jacinta, Expedia or Booking?
Booking. Sorry, Susan.
All right.
I thought we were friends.
All right, so Jacinta, I was interested what you said yesterday, and I want to get the views of the panelists. You said that you actually removed a tour, which was one of your best sellers in the Komodo, right? Because you learned that the fishermen were feeding the sharks,
the
right?
Whale sharks, yeah.
And so you actually removed it because you felt it wasn't in line with your values. Would Expedia ever do anything like that?
Yes,
Of
we
course.
have.
Yeah,
we
you have.
We do that actively every single day.
All right. So how much money did you lose because you did that?
I mean, we got other things on the platform to kind of replace that, but yeah, we have inquiries about it still every day, and we write them a long spiel about how it's not sustainable, and then they go off and book it with someone else anyway. So
Exactly, right? Okay. So, but you don't care as long as they can't book it on yours, right? John, have you ever done anything like that?
Yeah, lots of times. We have removed several. I'm obviously not going to name specifics,
Okay.
but yeah, several, particularly on animal welfare grounds.
All right. So Jacinta, sticking on money, right? You say you want to do what you do with no external funding. So it's all your own funding, your own skin in the game, right? Why is this no funding principle important to you? Because a lot of startups are raising money in this environment, and it seems to be a really good time to be raising funds, right? Why is this so important to you?
I mean, we do have some friends and family funding to get us off the ground, and I wouldn't say it's a principle per se, but I am quite wary of the venture model because two reasons. So the first reason is that I was previously in a very well-funded venture startup, and I saw that sometimes the metrics were very skewed towards what was good for the investor rather than what was good for the customer. And the second thing is, I think in this region, the venture model hasn't quite proven itself yet. The DPIs, the returns to the LPs, have been very frequently under one. So it hasn't been given good returns to the LPs. And I'm quite wary of anything that also doesn't return to the investors, right? So we try to look for another way. There must be another way other than this traditional model that everybody keeps talking about that's making the news. And one of our big role models is Patagonia, which is a privately owned company. It's a billion-dollar company. And it's managed to make sure that its supply chains are sound, that they protect the national parks, and they promote like recycling of their clothing, so they're able to live in according to their values. And they said that that's not going to be possible if they were a public company, because then they have to go through the quarterly reporting cycles. And I think about that a lot, and obviously it's possible to be sustainable and grow according to our values if we're venture funded. I haven't seen many examples of that, so it's not a no on principle, but I think if the right fit came along, we'll need to see whether it met all the stakeholder values, so it was still good for our customers, the environment, and the local communities as well.
So as the more experienced members in travel, would you have any advice for Jacinta on what model would best serve her mission?
Yeah, my advice would be to just stick to that mission. Don't try and spread out too wide, too fast. Right? Narrow in on what's important to you and who your target customer is, and knock that one out of the park.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add it's really important that you know who you want to be as a brand. And if you are going to partner with somebody, I mean, we look at that often. Do we do it ourselves? Do we partner with others? How do you do that in the most efficient way? But the most important thing is, will they add value, and will they honor your brand?
Right. And John, I mean, you're also in the funding market, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the funding that's going into this tours and activities space? I mean, we've got B2B tech raising, we've got B2C tech raising. What do you think?
Firstly, I'd like to say I'm honoured sitting with Expedia and Booking to be referred to as one of the giants. We'll take that. We've had about 150 million of funding, and it's a blessing and a curse, right? I wouldn't be in the position where I could necessarily fund 150 million myself. So it's a necessity for us to kind of achieve what we want to achieve. But it does, as we went through COVID, the interest on those sort of things gets eye-watering, when you have no sales. So there are definitely pros and cons, and if you can achieve the objectives without it, that's probably better. I would agree with that. And but yeah, so we're in that market of we're private equity backed.
Right.
We take funding to kind of help with our tech investments and our business expansion, investing in our app, that sort of stuff to improve the customer proposition.
Okay. So Jacinta, I mean, what advice would you, or what would you like the OTAs, the giant OTAs, and the medium-sized
Giants
do for the industry, or to work with startups like yourself? What advice would you like to give them, or something, a wish?
I mean, I think I mentioned this yesterday. I think just for my hope for the industry, right? I think there's not, a lot of people talk about sustainability and a lot of it is token. But I think, what Susan and Austin talked about today in terms of what they're doing, I think that's amazing, right? And I think just talking more about things like that so that when travelers think about a destination to go to, they're not just thinking about how beautiful a destination is or how cool the destination is. And it's also, what is the impact of them being there? And if the impact of them being there is not great because there's over-tourism in certain areas, can we try to steer them more towards the other areas? Because there is ultimately going to be a balance between scale and hyperscale and sustainability, right? That's why our planet is a little bit overstretched at the moment. So I think everybody in the travel industry, I think we are inching towards it, but can we fly towards it and, get there faster?
All right. Any response to that?
Yeah, I think what we're able to do there with the scale that we have at Booking is we've got tremendous reach, right? And obviously we've got a lot of supply in those over-touristed places like Venice and Paris, et cetera, but we've got the long tail as well, right? And technology is going to help us to make sure that long tail and what's so amazing about it gets exposure to travelers all around the world.
Yeah,
Right,
it's not just about the destination, right? It's also about how you're getting there and all those other components. And that's something that we can look across all of our different verticals to make sure that we're being responsible in each area.
It's not quite a sort of conservation environmental thing, but the other kind of ESG-related topic is over-tourism. And I think that's something we also have to be careful of. And one of the things, we do a lot of work with the New York DMO, previously NYC & Co., about making sure that when visitors go to New York, they don't just spend their time in Times Square. Yeah. And Times Square just gets horrifically crowded, and there's examples in Rome and in Paris of places like that. And it's important that we, as an industry, help people uncover all of the gems that there are in a destination, rather than kind of focusing everyone on those one or two blockbuster Instagram sites.
Absolutely. Okay, so final question, imagination. If you had $600,000 and you don't want to go to space, but you'd rather spend it on a travel experience, what would you spend it on? Susan?
I think I would do a cruise around the world, a six-month cruise around the world.
I'd love a private Taylor Swift concert, but I hear she grosses about $14 million per concert, so $600,000 might get me 2 or 3 songs, I guess.
Yeah. Not enough.
I would get a room in the Marina Bay Sands for one night. I'd probably go for a luxury chalet in the Alps, a remote chalet in the Alps for me and family and friends.
Right, and stay there for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Jacinta, what would you spend that $600,000 on, if not 6, Sophie?
So there's this experience which I've been dying to go on, and I keep thinking, at some point I will. There's this chef in South America. His name is Francis Molman, and he's one of the top chefs in South America. And he has a private island. Like, if you think about Patagonia, which is already kind of on the edge, he has a private island just beyond the edge of Patagonia. And it's really tiny. And he basically he's very back to the earth. Like, he will hunt, and he'll have roaring fires, and he'll cook for you there for 10 days. And I just thought it would be so nice if you could go with a group of people there, just to go, immerse yourself in what it was like just to cook and experience this experience.
Right. That sounds like a kampong experience in outskirts of Ipoh. Why would you have to pay $600,000 for that?
$30,000 per person.
Well,
Wow.
I love your imagination. Cruise?
Concert.
Three songs of Taylor Swift, right? Luxury chalet in the Alps, and this woman wants to go to a private island where, the chef forages for food. Please join me in thanking Susan, Austin, Jon, and Jacinta. Thank you.
They're ready now. Let the show begin. Next generation for the win.